When people hear Greenland, they tend to think of ice, isolation, and one of those maps that makes half the planet look like it is leaning away from the sun. They usually do not think of missile defense. Yet Greenland matters to America's missile defense for a very plain reason. Geography still rules, and the high north sits on one of the shortest paths between North America and major missile threats coming over the polar region. That is why the United States maintains Pituffik Space Base in northwestern Greenland, where the 12th Space Warning Squadron operates the upgraded early warning radar for missile warning, missile defense, and space surveillance missions. To understand why Greenland matters, you have to start with a dull but important fact. Missile defense is not only about interceptors. It begins with seeing the threat soon enough to make decisions. The 2022 U.S. Missile Defense Review describes homeland ballistic missile defense as a system built from interceptors, command and control, and a network of space-based and terrestrial sensors. Greenland matters because it is one of the places where that sensor layer gets its eyes on the problem early. That sounds technical, though the idea is simple. If a hostile missile is launched toward the United States from the Eurasian landmass or from waters to the north, the Arctic route is often the straight road. Missiles do not care about the emotional boundaries in people's heads. They care about physics. The polar approach is the old front door. Greenland sits beside that door with a radar watching it. That is why the old Thule Air Base, now Pituffik Space Base, has remained strategically important from the Cold War into the present. The radar at Pituffik is part of the Integrated Tactical Warning and Attack Assessment Network. In plain terms, that means it helps give national leaders warning that a ballistic missile launch has occurred, helps track it, and helps support the broader system that decides what to do next. That does not mean Greenland houses the interceptor missiles that would try to shoot down an incoming warhead. It does mean Greenland helps make the whole defensive chain possible. A missile shield with weak sensors is like a guard dog with cataracts. Loud, loyal, and not much use at the wrong moment. Pituffik's role is larger than many people realize. Official Space Force material says the base supports missile warning, missile defense, and space surveillance, while also supporting satellite command and control through its tracking station. That matters because modern missile defense is not one neat machine. It is a layered tangle of radars, satellites, data links, command systems, and shooters spread across regions and services. Greenland's value comes from being a node in that larger web, and a very well-placed one at that. There is also a second point that gets lost in the chatter. Greenland matters because warning time matters. Even a few additional minutes can be decisive when leaders are trying to determine whether an alert is real, what kind of missile has been launched, what the likely target area is, and whether to engage interceptors. Early warning is not glamorous. Nobody makes a summer blockbuster about a radar feeding data into command networks. Yet, in an actual crisis, that quiet stream of information may matter more than speeches, slogans, and very expensive neckties in Washington. This is why Greenland has remained central to NORAD's warning mission. Public U.S. military material states that the radar there provides attack assessment on intercontinental and sea-launched ballistic missile threats within its coverage, and supports launch and impact predictions. That is not decorative language. It means Greenland helps answer the most urgent questions in the first terrible moments of a missile event. What was launched? From where? Toward whom? And how soon people need to act. The Arctic dimension makes all of this more pressing, not less. The Pentagon's 2024 Arctic Strategy describes the North American Arctic as vital for homeland defense and calls for stronger early warning and missile defense capabilities in the region. NATO has also said the High North is increasingly important for collective security. This is a polite bureaucratic way of saying that the Arctic is no longer the frozen attic where old strategic furniture goes to gather dust. It is back in the center of planning because the threat picture has thickened. Why has the threat picture thickened? Because the United States is no longer thinking only about a narrow class of ballistic missile threats from rogue states. The broader missile environment now includes more varied ballistic, cruise, and hypersonic threats, alongside greater competition in the Arctic and more military activity across the High North. Even when Greenland's radar is discussed in the older language of ballistic missile warning, the strategic setting around it is broader and meaner than it was a generation ago. The map did not change, the weapons did. That brings us to an awkward truth. Greenland is important partly because it reveals the strengths and limits of American missile defense. Pituffik gives the United States a forward sensor in a key location. Yet sensors are only one part of the chain. Several recent analyses have pointed out that the Arctic is seeing new, low-altitude and hypersonic threats that stress older warning architectures. In other words, Greenland remains crucial, though the mission around it is getting harder. The watchtower still matters. The fog is simply thicker now. This is one reason American defense planners have become more interested in resilient sensor networks, better data fusion, and stronger Arctic posture. The value of Greenland is not that it solves missile defense by itself. It does not. Its value is that it occupies a strategic position no white paper can wish away. You can build more satellites. You can modernize command systems. You can place interceptors elsewhere. Yet a radar site in Greenland still gives you something precious: polar awareness from the right patch of Earth. Geography keeps collecting its rent. There is also a political angle here. Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark, and Denmark is a NATO ally. So America's military presence there is not a story of random Arctic camping. It is part of a long-standing alliance structure tied to North American and transatlantic defense. That matters because missile defense is never purely technical. It depends on access, basing rights, infrastructure, allied consent, and regional stability. A radar can be excellent on paper and useless in reality if the politics around it rot. Pituffik matters because the strategic geography and the alliance geography happen to meet in one icy place. And then there is the space connection, which people often miss. The same site in Greenland that supports missile warning also supports space surveillance and satellite command functions. That overlap makes sense because missile warning and space operations are increasingly braided together. The United States Space Force is not in Greenland because someone wanted a scenic hardship posting with magnificent wind and miserable coffee. It is there because the line between watching missiles and watching space has become thinner, and Pituffik serves both missions. This also helps explain why Greenland keeps surfacing in American strategic debates. It is not because of romance, or because policy people suddenly discovered glaciers and felt poetic. It is because Greenland sits at the crossroads of missile warning, homeland defense, Arctic strategy, and space operations. If you care about defending the US homeland against long-range attack, Greenland is not some exotic side note. It is one of the places where the first chapter of that defense gets written. So when someone asks why Greenland matters for America's missile defense, the answer is not mysterious. It matters because missiles can come over the pole. It matters because early warning has to happen before interception. It matters because Pituffik's radar helps feed the warning and tracking architecture that underpins homeland defense. It matters because the Arctic is growing more important, not less. And it matters because in strategy, as in real estate, location still has the last laugh. Greenland is cold, remote, and easy for the average American to ignore, which is precisely why it is the sort of place strategists stare at for decades. History has a habit of hiding serious things in lonely places. Greenland is one of them.